Welcome back to Straight Facts by Dinar Investor. Welcome back. Here's some morning Iraq news for you. In the current news, Baghdad and Erbil tell us that they're still coming into agreements, resolving their differences on everything for the math and the numbers within the 2020 budget. They have not given us a start date on that yet. They say they're still going after Iraqi corruption, and they're telling us that they're in the process of also redoing Mahdi's cabinet as well, which we believe is probably most likely done and complete regardless. So that'll be your morning news, guys. Have a great day and God bless you.
U.S. Undersecretary of State. The United States will take action against the corrupt who stole the money of the Iraqi people. The United States threatened on Sunday to take legal action against personalities involved in corruption and theft of funds of the Iraqi people, while stressing that changing the constitution is a private Iraqi matter. U.S. Undersecretary of State Joy Hood said in an interview with the official channel Iraq that the coming months will see the United States take action against corrupt people who stole the money of the Iraqi people, noting that those measures will be long because they are illegal. The Iraqis want an end to rampant corruption, Hood said. The United States will deal with any Iraqi national figure on the political and parliamentary efforts to change the Iraqi constitution. Hood stressed that changing the constitution is an Iraqi matter that does not concern the United States or any other country. The United States has in recent months imposed sanctions on people in the PMU under allegations of human rights violations. Talabani talks about the details of the Baghdad and Erbil negotiations November 17, 2019. Wabad Talabani, Deputy Prime Minister of the Kurdistan Regional Government, that the steps to prepare a draft reform law is going well, noting that the government wants to send a draft law to the Kurdistan Parliament. Talabani said, the tense situation in the capital Baghdad and some other provinces led to the delay of dialogue between the Kurdistan Regional Government and the federal government. He added that relations, telephone contacts and exchange of views between the Kurdistan Regional Government and the federal government has started again, and I hope to reach a good result and prepare a draft federal budget law for 2020 in a way that is in the interest of all the Iraqi people and the Kurdistan region. Talabani said, the salaries of employees will not be lost, and we continue to administrative and financial reform, and we are working to provide dues employees in the Kurdistan region. He continued. The Kurdistan regional government has implemented the first phase of the biometric registration system, and the second phase will be the organization of staff and take advantage of the statistics we have, so that we can distribute employees to government departments according to competencies and expertise. Sources talk about the change of 13 ministers in the government of Abdul Mahdi, and elections after 1 year. November 17, 2019. Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi plans to reshuffle 13 ministers in his cabinet, a political source said early Sunday. The source added to the Nas today, November 17, 2019, that Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi briefed the political forces and religious authority during the past few days on the nature of the reshuffle and the ministries that will be included. According to the source, the next step, including a year, to hold early elections. Meanwhile, the head of the Center for Political Thinking, Aizan al-Shamari, said that 48 hours after the Sistani-Shia clash, the Shiite political forces are meeting secretly to agree on a formula to circumvent their demands. Iraqi youth want their country back. November 17, 2019. Iraq has been betrayed and continues to be betrayed, and that's what the young protesters are trying to counter with unexpected courage. Sunday, November 17, 2019. No safe haven. An Iraqi demonstrator poses during anti-government protests in Baghdad. November 5. Reuters. Thousands of angry young protesters in various Iraqi cities are chanting the same slogan, "We want a homeland," meaning we want to reclaim our homeland. Such a slogan reflects a profound shift in viewing reality and reconsidering its historical facts. Through that slogan, in all its painful and hurtful honesty, and with its implied and embarrassing accusations of previous generations, Iraqis have marginalized all those who were involved in the crime of the gradual loss of Iraq and those who have witnessed it without moving a finger to stop it. It's not just the current government that is the target of the protesters. It's the whole political class that has neglected national values and the religious establishment that has chosen to ride the train of politics and lost its faith in the divine principles. Because the young people do not belong to a party and are not raising any doctrinal slogan, because they know nothing of the political conflicts that plagued Iraq before they were even born, and because they have not been contaminated by the disease of conspiracy. It was easy for them to discover that this endless dark maze they are lost in cannot be a homeland, for no decent homeland can be infected with so many epidemics whose rot is filling their lives. Iraq has become the scene of deception, lying, fraud, betrayal, vulgarity, banditry, moral collapse, forgery, misinformation, obfuscation of the truth and buying people's moral consciousness, as well as assassinations under the banner of sectarianism. Iraq has become a boat seized by ruthless pirates. They have imprisoned its owners in the bottom of its hull and enslaved them. The poor souls are no longer able to differentiate between the sunshine of March when damask roses bloom and the 10th of Muharram when Iraqis mourn the anniversary of Imam Hussein's assassination in their very own country. The whole of Iraq was turned into a Karbala, as if there was a hidden power that wants to inflict eternal harm on Iraq and its people. The country's imagination was wrapped in a black shroud and laments replaced its national anthem, while its people were smitten with poverty, ignorance, disease, and eternal perdition as punishment. No one has ever dared say this is not a homeland. The biggest lie in that swamp called Iraq was the word patriotism. Everybody used it and abused it without pondering the multiple distortions of its meaning. There were times that cast heavy doubt on the patriotism of Iraqis. There was a deepening disappointment in the hearts of all those who loved Iraq. That's Iraq's grave? A friend told me as he wept. Is Iraq's fate to be a huge grave? Can we really live in a grave called homeland? That is the question the young people of Iraq have answered today. The youth are confronting the previous generations with the truth. We want a homeland has become their demand, knowing that no one but themselves can achieve that goal, not the government, not the political class, not the United Nations, and not the international community. That is their story whose secrets no one will understand. Iraq was lost because its people did not protect it. That's all that can be said about it. This is certainly true of the reality of Iraq, but it does hide a few important details. Iraq has been betrayed and continues to be betrayed, and that's what the young protesters are trying to counter with unexpected courage. Iraq's betrayal was arranged in deep darkness and was made to look like a natural event. Since 2003, Iraq has been a hotbed of traitors who believe that their hostility to the former regime is enough to be a cover for their betrayal of Iraq, but reality has exposed their betrayal because their betrayal and greed have left Iraq naked. The political class that seized power created an Iraq that people under the age of 20 did not recognize as their homeland. Iraq's youth felt like strangers in that horrible Iraq, so they came up with the slogan, "We want a homeland." Their right to a homeland is not a service demand. This is because they see their destiny and they know that it can't be filled with high hopes without a homeland. There is a homeland called Iraq, and that's what needs to be restored. How Iraq's oil revenues evaporate. November 17, 2019. Following the money trail of how ministries spend their budgets is difficult even for well-meaning reformers because there is little transparency and accountability. Sunday, November 17, 2019. Growing frustration. Protesters tried to pull down concrete barriers during clashes with Iraqi security forces in Baghdad. November 10, AP. Baghdad. Waves of violent protests have engulfed Baghdad and Iraq's southern provinces. Fueling the unrest is anger over an economy flush with oil money that has failed to create jobs or improve the lives of young people, who are the majority of those taking to the streets. They say they have had enough of blatant government corruption and subpar basic services. Oil accounts for 85–90% of state revenue. This year's federal budget anticipated $79 billion in oil money, based on projected exports of 3.88 million barrels per day at a price of $56 a barrel. Iraq's economy improved in 2019 because of a rise in oil production, and GDP growth was expected to grow 4.6% by the end of the year, the World Bank said. The fruits of these riches are rarely seen by the average Iraqi because of financial mismanagement, bureaucratic inefficiency, and corruption, experts and officials said. The overall unemployment rate is around 11%, while 22% of the population lives in poverty, World Bank estimates state. 1/3 of Iraqi youth are without jobs. One of the main problems is that the oil wealth is spent on the public sector and especially on salaries, said Ali Al-Malai, head of research at Al Bain Center, a think tank in Baghdad. Iraq's brand of sectarian power sharing, called the Muhassasa system in Arabic, effectively empowers political elites to govern based on consensus and informal agreements, marginalizing the role of parliament and alienating much of the Iraqi population in the process. On the ground, this dynamic has played out through a quota system in which resources are shared among political leaders, with each vying to increase networks of patronage and build support. Leaders have relied on doling out government jobs to preserve loyalty. The tactic has bloated the public sector and drained Iraq's oil-financed budget, leaving little for investment in social and infrastructure projects. In the 2019 budget, public sector compensation accounted for nearly 40% of state spending. With major international oil companies flocking to develop the country's oil fields, the number of government employees grew threefold in the past 16 years, Malai's research indicates. Offering jobs is a recourse used by Iraqi politicians to quell protests in the past. Iraqi Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi included thousands of hires in a reform package introduced in October. Experts said this approach perpetuates the problem. Following the money trail of how ministries spend their budgets is difficult even for well-meaning reformers because there is little transparency and accountability. In some cases, money is simply not spent because of poor planning and management, said Malali. Last year's budget ended with a surplus of around $21 billion not because we had too much money but because we didn't know how to spend it the right way, he said. Often, money earmarked for service projects by the government or international organizations gets spent by ministry officials for expenditures, said an Iraqi official, who requested anonymity because of regulations. Or the funds are used to pay debts from previous years, the official said, adding, so when it's time to sign the contract, they say no money because what they have isn't enough. There are thousands of ways bureaucrats can siphon it off. The official added, crucial projects remain incomplete. School buildings in Basra are crumbling and overcrowded with multiple shift programs. Iraqi leaders have been unwilling to reform the system, which experts said is unsustainable because of limited resources and over-reliance on volatile oil markets. Source: the sale of dollars in the central bank stopped blocking the arrival of large fake funds to Iran. November 17, 2019. Baghdad News. Washington, Reuters. A halt to the dollar's sale at the central bank has prevented large fake funds from reaching Iran, an informed source said on Sunday. The central bank is wasting money that can build 200 schools and 50 hospitals each year because of the currency auction, the source told Al Akhbariya. The currency auction gives fake commercial agencies millions of dollars a day without any restriction, the source said, speaking on condition of anonymity. He added that stopped selling the dollar in the central bank in the past days because of demonstrations and new measures prevent the arrival of large fake commercial funds to Iran through its intermediaries.